The Lord turned and looked straight at Peter. Then Peter remembered the word the Lord had spoken to him. Before the rooster crows today, you will disown me 3 times. And he went outside and wept bitterly. At the turn of the 20th century, a Russian physician named Ivan Pavlov did some experiments with dogs that made him famous. In fact, he won a Nobel Prize. Pavlov wanted to see how conditioned reflexes were acquired. He knew that dogs naturally salivate to food, but he wanted to see if salivation could be caused by another stimulus. So Pavlov discovered that if he rang a bell before feeding the dogs, that eventually the ringing bell without the food would cause the dogs to salivate. Pavlov referred to this learned relationship as a conditioned reflex. Well, like Pavlov's dogs, all of us are consciously and subconsciously conditioned. We acquire an elaborate set of conditioned reflexes. What does any of that have to do with Peter's denial? Well, I can't help but wonder if Peter felt a twinge of guilt every time he heard a rooster crow. Long before alarm clocks, this is how Peter would wake up every morning to the sound of a rooster crowing. It was like a daily reminder of the mistake he had made. Newsflash, the enemy doesn't just prowl like a roaring lion, he crows like a rooster. He wants to remind you of everything you've done wrong over and over again. Why? If you're consumed with guilt over the past, you have no energy left to dream about the future. Satan is the accuser of the brethren, but Jesus is our advocate. He came to recondition our reflexes. And Peter is a wonderful example. After the resurrection, Peter goes out to fish. He thinks his career as a disciple is over. And so he goes back to his former occupation. That's when Jesus shows up on the beach at the Sea of Galilee, and he actually makes breakfast for his disciples. Then he pulls Peter aside and he asks a question. Do you love me more than these? And he doesn't ask it once or twice, but 3 times. Why? Well, maybe, just maybe, Jesus knew a thing or two about reconditioned reflexes long before Ivan Pavlov came along. Jesus is reconditioning Peter's reflexes. But I want you to notice when it happens. Scripture is explicit. He does this at dawn. So what? Well, that's when roosters crow. This is Jesus reconditioning Peter's reflexes. Instead of a rooster's crow reminding him of his greatest failure, his denial of Jesus, Jesus is now reminding him of this moment when he gives Peter a second chance, gives him a new lease on life and leadership.